Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Elise. Today I'm going to be making 2 cards featuring some of the little agenda stamp and die sets from Mama Elephant. I think that these little stamps are so adorable, but sometimes it's hard to know how to use them. So I wanted to make some cards featuring them. I have already colored all of the images because I actually colored them during the last 30-day coloring challenge, which if you're unfamiliar, Kathy Rakusin runs this challenge, and it's just encouraging you to color once a day for an entire month. I did not color the little monkey on that sheet because I messed up on the stamping. So I just wanted to show that as to why there was one uncolored. So during that challenge, I colored a lot of these little agenda stamp sets and I wanted to show how I use them. So I've got the monkey and the dog sets, which I also have the coordinating dies for both of those. The next coloring challenge, by the way, starts November the 1st, so I thought that this would be a great time to do this video. So for one of the cards, the card with the monkeys, I'm going to use this Mama Elephant grid window, which I've already die cut from some Nina 110-pound cardstock. And for the little dog set, I'm going to use these little agenda frames that Mama Elephant released, which was brilliant. They really go so well with these stamp and die sets. There's a number of these sets. I have a few of them, but the monkey and the dogs are probably my favorites. Okay, so let's get started making the first card. I did all my die cutting off screen, and since these are such little pieces, I just kept them in these little bowls so that I wouldn't misplace any of the little guys. If you've never seen how I store my Distress Oxide blending foams, this is how I store them. If you want a more in-depth video about that or any of my organization, leave me a comment down below and let me know. So I am going to blend a panel here for the background of this grid window, and I'm going to use Bristol Smooth cardstock to blend on. I've got 3 Distress Oxide colors out, but I only end up using 2. For time's sake, I'm going to speed this up. I wish I could blend this quickly, but I cannot. The first color I'm using is Twisted Citron. I love this shade of green. I feel like this is almost everybody's favorite Distress Oxide color. It's hard to beat. It's gorgeous. And then the next color I'm going to use is the Lucky Clover color. And at this point, it's when I decided I was not going to use that third color, just the 2. I really wanted a brighter background. So just blending that on and then going back with the Twisted Citron and making a nice blend in between. It's kind of nice. The blending foams hold on to a lot of the color because these are partially pigment. It makes for blending unbelievably smooth. I am not a good blender, but these inks really allow me to be. So just going to go ahead and spray that with water from a distress sprayer. Wait for a second and pat that dry to pick up some of the color with a paper towel. I'm going to leave that to dry, heat set it just a little bit to try to speed that up. Because this ink has some pigment properties to it, it does stay wet a little bit longer, so I always feel like I need to heat set it before I move on. So now I've got my little window frame here and just going ahead and cutting down that panel just a little bit because my panel is larger than the window frame. So just taking off a little bit here and there and making that work perfectly. So I've got my little sentiment, and this comes from that frame stamp set. So it just says thank you, and I'm going to stamp that in the bottom corner. And then to pop up this grid window, I'm going to use some of these Doris foam strips. I love these little foam strips. They're really, really wonderful for shaker cards and for, just absolutely perfect for projects like this where the area to add in like regular foam tape is not very large. So I've peeled up all that backing and just going to stick that on over top. And going to make my card base here. It'll be a top fold A2. just scoring that. The card bases I always use is Neenah 110 pound smooth white cardstock. And then just going to adhere this down to the card base using some dot runner. Just always trying to get that lined up perfectly. I find it easier to just stand it up sometimes. So now I've got all my little monkeys and some liquid glue, and I am just going to start placing these, trying to space them out. You know, I've got two that are kind of dangling, so I probably want those to sit opposite of each other. I've got a couple with red accents, a couple hearts, so I want those to not be right next to each other. A couple with leaves or green accents, so again, I don't want those to be right next to each other. So just trying to find places for everybody where it makes the most sense. And then once I've decided where those are going to go, I just put some glue on the back and then turn it over and stick it down. I was trying to use my jewel picker and I just didn't want to get the jewel picker in the glue, so it was just easier for me to use my fingers in the end. So getting all of these little guys glued down, this did take a couple minutes, but once they're all glued down, we're good to go. I think that they're so cute. So now going on to the second card, which is going to include my little frames. So I've got a couple different dogs, picked ones with a lot of like colorful things. They're all holding something. So I think that that makes them really, really fun. The little inserts for the frames, I wanted those to have color, but I didn't want to recut pieces with colored cardstock. It just seemed wasteful if I already had these. So I'm just taking out some pastel colored Copic markers and just running the markers over those inserts just really quickly. Nothing fancy, no shading, just literally one color so that I could get some color down. So just going ahead and coloring all of those little inserts. Are you planning on doing the 30-day coloring challenge in November? If so, let me know down below. I think it's so fun and it just encourages you just to make something crafty every day, and you don't have to make a whole card. I often just stamp out a ton of images like I did with these little agenda sets and just colored one or two little critters every day. And now I've got all of these already done, and it makes it easier to make cards. Because I feel like sometimes I don't make critter cards because I find it intimidating to have to color and make the whole scene and things like that. So it eliminates a step. So again, I'm using one of the sentiments from the little agenda stamp set, Wish Big, and I'm stamping that with some black Gina K ink. I am going to go ahead and adhere this all to the card front, kind of one layer, but not since I'm adding things. And just trying to fiddle with these, see how I like them best laid out. You know, I wanted some of the scallop ones to not be right next to each other and have some variation. So just deciding where I'm going to put those and which ones of the little dogs are going to go into each frame. Once again, using that Dries foam strips to add some dimension to these frames and pop them up just a little bit. I did use some purple tape from Gina K and Thermoweb to keep that card down so it was easier for me to assemble on top of. Added some of that liquid glue and then just adding in the inserts. I think this gives it a lot of color and some interest. And now just going ahead and putting my little dogs where I think I'm going to place them. And just going to go ahead and glue those down the same way that I did the monkeys. Super simple. You know, these cards came together pretty quickly. I did both cards in I think just about 45 minutes, which for me for 2 cards is pretty good. So yeah, I enjoyed making these cards, and I hope this gives you some inspiration on what to do with these Mama Elephant Little Agenda card sets. Please subscribe to see more from me, and I'll see you later.